What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. In today's video on this lovely Tuesday morning, I want to get into one of the Jets' latest roster moves and how it highlights some just absolute incompetence, unfortunately, with this roster. Yesterday, the New York Jets signed Kene Nwonwu and released Izzy Abanikanda. Nwonwu was the one who had the electric 99-yard kick return for a touchdown against the Seattle Seahawks. He also forced one of, I believe it was the first fumble that Laviska Shenault had as the returner for the Seattle Seahawks. He had a monster day. And again, I don't want to, this isn't me saying that all the Jets should have kept Izzy and like that was a mistake and that they shouldn't have signed Nwonwu to the roster or anything like that. Unfortunately, this points back to a really silly decision that the Jets made months ago. In fact, they made it before the season started. Look back at when the New York Jets made their 53-man roster. Now, granted, there were going to be some tough decisions with the 53-man roster, but one of the more surprising decisions was that they kept Izzy Abanikanda on the 53-man. After really not being involved at all pretty much through the summer. It was very clear that he was fourth on the pecking order behind Breece Hall, behind guys, the rookies and Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. Hell, when Tariq Cohen was here before he retired, he was below him on the totem pole. It was very obvious that Izzy was projecting to be an odd man out, wasn't getting a ton of reps above like the third stringers. But for some reason, he ends up making the team as a fourth running back. They decide to keep a fourth running back. And as a result, what the Jets have to do, instead of cutting Brandon Codrington, they trade him to the Buffalo Bills, the kick returner. And I personally was a little disappointed that the Jets had to move on from Codrington because I thought it was clear that he was the best returner on the team and he looked more comfortable than Xavier Gipson. Well, Codrington's been pretty good up in Buffalo. He's been better as a punt returner than a kickoff returner, but still, he's had a relatively good season up there in Buffalo, while Xavier Gipson has struggled pretty much all year. And honestly, most of last year too, excluding the first game. He had a monster big moment in the first game of the year against Buffalo last year, punt return for a touchdown, the game winner. But honestly struggled after that for the rest of the year. And then this year, through the first 12 games of the year, really didn't offer much as a returner. So the Jets finally decide to make a change. They sign a former, all-pro returner 13 games into their season. And the first day, they switch up the returner. The new guy, Nwonwu, houses one. He has a touchdown. And the frustrating part is, this is not an uncommon thing that was talked about back in August. If guys like me or other Jets fans or other content people are able to see, like, hey, this returner is really good in Codrington, and Xavier Gipson hasn't been, wasn't really good last year, and he didn't really do all that much in the preseason to make you feel confident going into the year. And it's like, no, we're all set there. We're good giving this job to Xavier Gipson without much competition. And you know what, Izzy, we really didn't utilize him all summer, but he's going to make the roster. Like that was a pretty obvious mistake, I would say. And like, why keep Izzy? He wasn't active for a single game this year. Not a single one. All 13 games he was here for the New York Jets in year two. Not one. Did not receive a carry, a touch, nothing. So they kept the fourth running back over returner. And until they figured it out in December that maybe that wasn't a good idea. Maybe they should go a different direction and not hold four running backs and never activate the fourth running back and instead carry a returner. And, they pivoted in season. They found a new returner, and I think he looks good. And I would like to see him get more return opportunities than Xavier Gipson going forward. But it's too little too late. And realizing a potential mistake and adjusting way too far gone. And it was something that seemed relatively obvious to, the casual observer. And unfortunately as well, like Izzy Abanikanda is going to join Michael Carter and LaMichael Pirine on the Joe Douglas day 3 running back swings and misses. And I'm going to be honest with you, of that group, I liked Michael Carter the best. I was kind of surprised that he didn't work out after a promising rookie season. I'm just hoping that Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis doesn't join that list in a year from now. I am very pro taking swings on the running back position, especially on day 2 and day 3. It worked with Breece Hall. It hasn't worked since then, and it's tough. Joe Douglas came up empty there, and this is another example of a draft pick that was on the offensive side of the ball on day 3 that they were unable to get anything out of. For Joe Douglas, they've been able to, or the Jets were able to find talent on the defensive side of the ball in the late rounds or in undrafted free agency. Some names that come to mind, Michael Carter, the starting slot corner. They've gotten a lot out of Brandon Echols, even Bryce Hall for a year or two. Looked like he could be an outside corner. Tony Adams as a UDFA, Bryce Huff as a UDFA. They've had numerous examples, Leonard Taylor and Eric Watts and Braden McGregor. They've been able to find guys that they could roster on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, it's been pretty rough, man. Outside of Breece Hall, they haven't had a lot of success drafting offense outside of round 1 or the top 40, I guess we'll say. Breece Hall is the exception, and Garrett Wilson is the exception, but it hasn't looked good for Malachi Corley. I don't think they really know how to use him, but just through pretty much his rookie season, it's not looking great. Didn't work for Denzel Mims. Didn't work for Elijah Moore. Didn't work for Michael Carter, LaMichael Pirine. I hope it works for Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. Didn't work for James Morgan. Don't know if it's going to work for Jordan Travis. They've just really struggled to find talent through the NFL draft on the offensive side of the ball outside the first round. Max Mitchell, Carter Warren, and the list goes on and on. I think that's a big reason why Joe Douglas ultimately ended up failing here. It's because they weren't able to find the talent on the offensive side of the ball. Stinks, but I think that's the reality. Let me know your thoughts on this situation down below in the comments. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new, and I will catch you next time.